listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good, and thank you for choosing to listen to my show, Straight to Video. I know there are thousands of great podcasts out there, so to have me in your ears for a short while is just awesome. Who are some of your other favourite podcasts, by the way? I'd love to discover some new ones, so hit me up online and let me know. So today is a return guest for the show. There's been a few people who have been on the podcast a couple of times, but when it comes to rock and roll legends, few are as iconic as today's guest, the one and only Suzi Quatro. Suzi is as busy as ever and non-stop with all things music and touring, but right now she's just released a duets album called Face to Face with another music veteran, KT Tunstall. The album has been met with worldwide praise and is a stunning collection of songs showcasing both songwriters at the peak of their talents, and there's a brand new single called Truth as My Weapon set for release in just a couple of weeks with the video available to watch now. Suzi, much like last time we spoke, was as fun and insightful with her rock and roll knowledge and stories, and it was great to once again pick her brain on all things bass guitar, which she takes zero crap about, which I love. Now, this Straight to Video podcast is proudly presented to you in association with Affinity Photo, an incredible piece of photo editing software, which I've been using for graphic design the past couple of years. It's used to create the podcast episode artwork you see every week, and it's an extremely affordable alternative to other programs on the market. So please, if you can, check them out at affinity.serif.com. Alright, let's dive into today's conversation. The new album from Suzi Quatro and KT Tunstall called Face to Face is out now on Sun Records, and you can connect with Suzi at suziquatro.com. But right now, please enjoy my Straight to Video podcast with the legend that is Suzi Quatro.
Hi.
Good evening. How are you doing, Suzi? Lovely to see you.
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you for doing this for us. It's been a couple of years since we last spoke.
I think it would have been, what would it have been, The Devil in Me the last time we talked?
That's right. Yeah. That's a very fast 2 years.
Like an express train.
It just gets faster every year. I don't know what's going on.
And the older you get, the faster it goes. Believe me. The only thing is, you're slower. The time goes quicker, but you're slower.
Right. I hit 30, it started going fast. Then I hit 40, then it went into hyperdrive.
Wait till it starts hitting your back.
Oh, it started. I'm 50 next year, so it's catching up.
Well, I'm 73 now, but I'm sure they got the date rock on my, I'm sure. I don't know how that age is connected with me, but there you go.
Like I say, it's been 2 years since we first spoke when your last album, The Devil in Me, was released. Since then, the world has opened up once more. You released the Uncovered EP, and touring and playing shows are back. You're without sunglasses this time, though, because last time you just got the black eye from the patio fall.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I really went over like a ton of bricks. You know, when you don't expect it and you just hit, you just go. Yeah. You haven't got anything in place. Your arms on it. You just don't expect it. Oh, boy.
But 2023, Suzi Quatro is busy as ever. Congratulations on the new album with KT Tunstall, Face to Face, which has just been released. Without doubt, a really genuine collaboration between two artists who you appeared to have a blast putting it together. And it really shows not only in the recordings, but in the videos and appearances. I saw you do the Breakfast TV interview together. That was awesome. Do you think you found something of a soulmate once you and KT began working together?
I think we did. You don't expect things like that to happen, but I do believe there are no accidents. I do believe we were supposed to meet. We were supposed to get together. We did find each other. We're both fans of each other. We both respect each other's artistry. You can see the connection. You can hear the connection. You know, that just doesn't happen by accident. That made to be. We're cut from the same cloth, but slightly different areas.
KT's admiration for you, that's been well documented, both in making an appearance in your Suzi Q doc, and I didn't realise, but the cover to her album, Drastic Fantastic, that's a tribute to yourself. Did you hear about that back in the day? Because that's, 15 years old or something like that?
I didn't know any of this. I just was quietly a fan of KT. A lot of times people say, oh, who of this generation would you like to work with? And she was one of the people. I always said, and then I just was watching my rough cut of Suzi Q to approve it. And there she was. And I went, oh, because I didn't know she was a fan. I had no idea. So the guy that put together the footage for Shine a Light, he was a follower of mine from the beginning and a follower of hers since she started. So he said, shall I engineer something? And I said, yeah. So he called her and she called me. And I went down to a studio in London that she was recording at. We had a little lunch. We talked. She said to me, I want to write a song. I've already got the riff. I want to move out of my comfort zone. Would you like to write it with me? I said, I always wanted to do that. So she sent me the riff for Overload. Didn't have a title yet, just this riff. And I took it, played it on my speakers, got my bass, got my songbook, sent her back what I thought it should be. It's so funny. And she contacted me again. She said, oh, you finished it. I said, no, I didn't. I said, I wrote my take on what you sent me for you to put your... She said, no, you finished it and it's perfect. And I went, okay. So she loved what I did. Then I sent her Good Kinda Hot. And so that she wouldn't do this to me again, I purposely left the verses. Then I said to her, KT, listen, something's happening. Why don't you come to me, stay over for a few days, and let's see what we got. So we sat down on the carpet there, and we first of all worked on Good Kinda Hot, so that we were together then. Overload was remote. Good Kinda Hot was together, but I already written the chorus. We sat down and I said, go. She did the verses. Doesn't always work this way. Anyway, then we had it established. So then the third song on this session was Truth is My Weapon, which also has a really good video. And she was sitting there with me. Now we're about to, for the first time, write together, sitting on my carpet, barefoot, or paraphernalia in front of us, bass, guitar, songwriting, book, pad of paper. And she said, what's the biggest lesson you learned in your life? I said, oh, that's easy. I said, it was when I was about 11 or 12 and I went to a pajama party and I decided at about midnight to play the truth game. And I thought it would be fun and informative to tell each person about something about themselves. Within about 5 seconds, it got ugly.
I would say that can get dangerous.
So that's where that song came from. We both agreed that truth is the only weapon you need, the gun without a shot. But we also agree that it's a dangerous weapon in somebody else's hands, and your truth can turn on you. So that's where this song has come from. Then, just to finish the story, we got it together, wrote down the lines, worked out the parts, singing it, putting it into the little recorder she has. And my son, who produced Face to Face, he happened to be in the kitchen this day. I don't know why. He was just there. He came over for something because I have a studio in the ground. So he was probably doing something in there. And he ran down the length of the house. It's a long house. And he went, what was that? I said, it's the first song we've done together. And he went, wow. And that was the beginning.
Oh, brilliant.
That was the beginning. And it was not manufactured. Neither of us drove, but neither of us were passengers either. We talked a lot about a given subject. Something will come up and we'd start talking. And as we're talking, going in the depths of these subjects, and every song is a journey. While we're talking as artists, we're of course listening for that moment. And it would come, and we're both good enough that the bass came up, the guitar came up, and it became a song. It's like it was there in front of us without us trying. Organic. It was organic.
Was that cool for you to have somebody from like an artistic point of view to bounce off? Was it different to like working with a producer and stuff like that, having another songwriter with you?
I have written with other songwriters. Richard's dad, Lenny, was my husband. So we wrote a lot together. I had another girl I wrote with a lot, Rihanna Wolf. I wrote my music over Shirley Roden. And of course, the last 2 albums with my son. But I think it's the first time I've written with somebody like KT, who has been successful in her own right. That she's had her hits that she's written. I've had mine. So that was the first time I've written that way, but it was just really natural. We didn't even try. You can hear it. And the blend, who knew that was going to happen? I know, it's so funny. My husband was listening to the album and he's a critic, and even worse, he's German, and German critics are the worst. And they are. They don't pull any punches.
In that they're brutally honest.
They are. And you have to appreciate it in some way, but it can be really harsh.
Like, just have a bit of a filter.
No, he's got no filter. He's got no edit machine. So, and actually, I don't have one either. But so he listened to the album and he was very quiet. And he said, don't tell me you knew, because I know you didn't. You couldn't have known the blend of the voices. And I went, what blend? So when I did the BBC Breakfast Show with KT, we were talking off camera. And I said, I want the truth from you. I said, did you realize when we were recording that we were blending like that? She said, no. So the good thing is, if we had known it, it would have been manufactured blend. But neither of us heard it. We were too ensconced in the album. And then when it came out, Ryder just said, whoa. And his favorite song, and KT's, is Illusion. He said, you write a song like that once in a lifetime, and I compare it to Paul Simon at his best.
I'll take it.
I'll take it from the German critic. I'll take it. Oh, yeah.
What I do want to know, though, was with Katie being a fan of you, she's come into your house to write. Was she totally professional right from the get-go, or did she have some fangirl moments or burning questions to ask you?
No, I think we kind of covered that at the first lunch we had.
Okay.
We were sitting there. It wasn't very long, about 45 minutes. You know, you do a little break into the ice and blah, blah, blah. And she said to me, I have a confession to make. And I went, okay. And she said, in my career, whenever I've had to make a decision, I say to myself, what would Suzi Quatro do? And I went, oh, that was just the nicest thing I ever heard. And then she said, and also, she said, I always thought that I was the first one to say, I don't call myself a female musician. I'm just a musician. And I went, no. And she went, no, I know that now. She said, I've read lots of your stuff now, and I'm way. I said, like I said that in 73. I might have said that in 64, for all I know. So she had already done that. And no, she didn't have any fan moments. We just respected each other.
But did she get a tour of your ego room?
Oh, completely. Completely. My ego room is special. And like I said, I probably told you that before. If people go up there, they don't come out. They're just in there. And isn't it funny that it's the quietest room in the house, my ego room? Because the ego room has its own voice, so you don't need to shout. Oh, I like that.
Take that one. That's staying in there.
I'm going to take it. Write it down.
The response to this album, it seems to have been pretty immediate and also universal. Let me see if I can get these stats right. Racking up a top 20 position in the physical album chart, top 10 in Scotland, number 3 in the Americana chart. But what's the response been from your own personal fan base?
I think both KT's and mine definitely responded, but this went across the board. 2 weeks ago when it came out, we were Album of the Week on Radio 2, which is phenomenal. I have done maybe 500 interviews, and it doesn't matter what age or if you're magazine, I did a lot of radio or newspaper, whatever it is, they've all gone ballistic on this album. I've had people saying that they cried over certain songs. They're all relating to the personal journey that Katie and I dared to take and recorded it. You know, some of those songs, you know, like If I Come Home, she didn't want to write that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
She tells the story herself. So I know I'm okay to tell it. We were talking about the baggage of childhood, and we all have it. Even if you had an idyllic childhood, you're going to have some baggage. It's just the way it is. And she was telling me her deep and dark, and I was telling her my deep and dark. And it got quite involved. And I said, KT, we have to write this song. And she went, no. And she walked out of the room. But she came back and she sat down and she said, okay. So we wrote that song, and she's on record as saying it was emotionally the hardest song for her.
I'm going to go back and listen to it again now in that different framework.
Yeah, you must. And when we were done with the song and putting it down, you know, you put it down a little bare basics on the little tape recorder so you don't forget anything. And she kind of went, I said, what's the matter? She went, I love the song. I hate you made me write it with you. I said, good. And now on interview, she says, although that was the most emotionally difficult for me, Suzi taught me something, that it's okay to put that out there and write about it, and it loses its power. Yeah. So we shared this. I'll give it to you how we do it. We shared this give and take. I am an in the fire person. That's my nature. If I see the fire, I don't go around it. I walk right into it, let me burn, and out I go. She observes the fire. She very often, if you listen to a lot of her stuff, she writes third person. So I pulled her into the fire, you know, what it feels like to burn. And she pulled me out of the fire and showed me I didn't have to burn all the time. So we kind of traded our artistry that way. We've learned a lot from each other, I have to say.
Would you say that's because you went down different paths, or you're from a slightly different generation of the industry, or why was that? Is it just different personalities?
Very good question. I think the fact that she's adopted, but she was an only child, and then her mother got pregnant unexpectedly, had another one, but she's adopted. So that's a different thing right away. I come from one of 5. I struggled to find my voice in that family of 5 kids. I did not want to be just another child. She had a different kind of struggle, but we both struggled. So we were both very determined. That's how I think I see it. We were both determined to be individual, and that's what we both are. And in that individuality, we found each other.
Fantastic. Love it.
It is. Wow. Cheers.
You mentioned your son Richard produced this album, much like your last few records. Is he your go-to now? You've just cracked the way of working efficiently and creatively.
Yeah, we've got a real good system. I trust him. I had to learn to trust him because he's not new in the business, but he's not as long on the tooth as me. He's got a very good instinct. If you just take this Face-to-Face album, I didn't push him on KT at all. He played on the first 3 tracks that we laid down just because she wanted him to, she loved The Devil in Me. So he had played on the demos that I sent her of Overload and Good Kind of Hot. And when we got to putting him down the first 3 tracks, including Truth Is My Weapon, I just happened to say to her, do you want Richard to come along again and play guitar? She said, yes. So he came along, he played on the first 3 tracks. Then things progressed and we got more near the sort of part of the album where you're making it be a proper record now. And I said, would you like Richard to add some electric? And she said, you tell Richard to take those tracks and do whatever he thinks is necessary. In fact, I'm officially asking Richard to produce this album. Now, me being a mother, inside I'm going, outwardly, I'm on the Skype with her and I went, oh, okay.
You've mastered that cool face. You mastered that in business meetings over the last few generations.
I said, when we're done Skyping, I'll give him a call. And then I went, oh my God, I have to call you back. Somebody's at the door. I completely lied. I did admit it to her like she did to me. I did admit it. I said, I couldn't wait to call Richard. So I said, I'll call you back. And then I went, Richard! I was so excited for him because I didn't push him down her throat. She wanted him to produce, and he produced this album with a fine-tooth comb. He was really careful what he put on there, really careful. Did a good job, really good job. And he's very humble, Richard. He doesn't like praise and all that. But the other day we were at a fun listening party at his neighbor's house, and we were playing along. And when Damage, which you have to listen to, Damage came on. I've never seen him do this before. He poked his head in the door as Damage was playing. He went, ha ha. He said, I fought Mom and I fought KT and I won. Because he said to us, I want to put a fiddle on this. And we both said, no. And he said, let me do it. And if you don't like it, we can take it off. And it made the song. And he did. But he had to say, I'll take it off if you don't like it. But he knew it. He heard it in his head.
We spoke about yours and Katie's vocals. They are great, but the bass on this album, top job. Did this album push you in any different ways with it being a little less rock than your own records from a bass playing point of view?
Probably slightly more melodic. Probably a little bit more texture conscious. I used my fretless a lot on this.
My next question. That was my next question. Yeah, there's a part in Face-to-Face is it Face-to-Face, the track?
You get it, yes, and that's fretless.
Yeah, I got it.
There is no sound in the world like a fretless bass. It's just, but it's the way bass started off, stand up. So you get that beautiful, authentic feel. And I love a fretless. It's unforgiving.
See, I didn't know you played fretless bass. I'm learning some shit.
Well, yeah, sure. But it's unforgiving. You better be on the money.
Oh, yeah. You've not got that gap. You've got to get it on the line.
On the line, yeah. So it's challenging, but there was no other way I could play that particular song but fretless. A lot of slides, Beautiful, beautiful. Do you have a favorite track?
When my ears go to the bass is If I Come Home and Overload, which you spoke about earlier on. That's where it crept through for me. I'm like, oh, this is great. My ears just go straight to it.
Yeah.
There's a few things last time we spoke which I didn't get a chance to ask about, and one of them is bass related. You've always stuck to your guns artistically throughout your career, but I'm wondering if once signing any record deals in the past, somebody's suggested you ditch the bass as a front person and go out front alone. And if so, I was going to end the question with, if so, what was your reaction to that? And there you go.
I have done stuff where I've just sung, sure, but I'll give you an example.
I'm totally screen grabbing that bit.
That was the middle finger, everybody. And that's the only response I have, the middle finger. It says it all. I broke my arm one time. I've broken a few bones, but I broke my left arm. And I had a sold-out Australian tour in 6 weeks. And my husband said to me, because I wasn't going to be ready in 6 weeks, it was right here. And the work hand, the left hand. So he said, you don't let it promoter down. You have to do the tour, take a bass player. So I said, you're right. So I took a bass player. And of course, 1 or 2 gigs in, I'm grabbing the bass and trying to do a few songs. And when I did pick up the bass for 2 or 3 songs, even though it killed me, the front of house came to me and said, the bass player you're using is very good, but as soon as you pick up that bass, it's a different sound.
Same amp, same bass.
I guess it's Suzi. I guess I have my own style. And he said, you just put your stamp on it, even though he's very good. So I have done stuff without playing bass, but I prefer to add my own. I do have my own style. And I didn't find it difficult to do bass and lead singing for one reason only. I learned bass and became lead singer at exactly the same time. So for me, they were connected. I'm playing and I'm singing. I didn't learn bass and then they said, you come and be lead singer, which would have been more difficult. I learned them simultaneously.
Do you still record with your old 1957 Fender Precision as well?
Do I have that one, and I have a jazz I use, but actually the Precision is the best in the studio.
Do you play jazz bass? I was looking at some recent clips.
I play jazz on stage.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm very clever, I practice with my Precision at home because it's the thickest, hardest neck to play. And when I go on stage to do the show and I've got the jazz to play, it's a tiny bit slimmer, so I'm faster. Practice on the hard one and go to the easier one. So when I do my 5.5 minute long bass solo, I'm flying.
We mentioned that before. It's like everyone gets their first crappy guitar and the action's like super high. Once you get used to that, once you get on something with a lower action, you're flying.
It was Alice Cooper, I think he said on my documentary, why didn't she get a smaller bass? Well, Alice, who I've known forever, when my dad gave me that bass to learn, I said, do you have a bass for starting a band? He said, yes. And he gave me the 1957 Fender Precision. I didn't available smaller or lighter or shorter neck because I didn't know any better. He just said, here's the bass. I said, okay, thank you. And I learned. So I became a really good bass player because I learned on the hardest. And I didn't know I was doing that. I just thought that's what I had to play. I didn't know there was a choice.
The new album, Face to Face, like your last EP, Uncovered, it's been released by Sun Records. That has to be a pretty cool for you, what with Elvis Presley having such an impact on your life and career. How did Sun Records get involved originally?
I have no idea how that happened, but it's the cycle complete, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when I found that out, I just went, okay, Elvis, you've been on my shoulder since I've been 5.5, and now I'm on your label. Come on. And I've got a T-shirt with the Sun record label and then Suzi Quatro and Katie underneath it. Had to be.
Yeah.
Meant to be. Yeah.
Did you see the Austin Butler and Tom Hanks Elvis movie? Have you seen it?
Yes.
Is it good? I've still not seen it.
I have my opinion. He was very good playing Elvis, but I did find it a little bit one-sided.
Okay.
I don't think he covered his spiritual side or his sense of humor. He played it one way, but it was very good, but he played one side of Elvis. And then there was a big dramatic scene of the breakup of Priscilla and Elvis, and it kind of came out of nowhere. So you're watching this actress kind of going, watch how I can act now. There wasn't anything leading up to it. So her anger in the scene was you needed to build up to it and wait for her to erupt. It didn't have a build up. And the magic for me happened at the end where he was doing, oh, my love, that. And they were very clever how they filmed the actor. And you for a minute think, is that the actor or is that Elvis? But then as you're wondering, is it him? It switches to him, to Elvis. And you're wondering, is it Elvis? And then it switches to very clever. And that, for me, was the magical moment of the movie because then I cried.
Goosebumps and tears.
And also Tom Hanks, who I love dearly, and he's a friend of mine, I guess rightly so. He tried to give Colonel Tom Parker a kindness that he didn't have. So I found that part of it unbelievable because I know of all of his people and nobody has a good word to say about him. But Tom Hanks wanted to give him a bit of humanity, which as an actor, which I can understand, but it didn't read right to me. And he's one of the best actors ever, Tom, you know, just the greatest. But so that's my opinion of the movie.
Do you have any favorite music related movies? Any that jump to mind?
I like, oh my God, Sweet Dreams, Patsy Cline.
Right.
The Buddy Holly one. That was good. I didn't like the Jerry Lee Lewis one because they made him like a clown. I loved Ray Charles' movie. Yeah, they a lot of times get it wrong. The Patsy Cline one, I did a big BBC documentary and I met her ex-husband and her kids and all that. And I said to her ex-husband, how did you like the biopic? And he said, oh, it's okay if you like fiction. I went, that meant it was exactly correct. And he didn't like it that he was exposed. That's what that meant.
So this year is 50 years of Can the Can. And next year, if my maths are right, is 60 years since you saw the Beatles on TV and began The Pleasure Seekers. Are you on for making these milestone events? Anything we can expect to commemorate? I think there's some big shows later this year.
So there are 5 big shows to celebrate 50 years of Can the Can being number 1. November the 12th, Cardiff St. David's Hall. November 13th, Brighton the Dome. 15th, London Palladium. 16th, Wolverhampton, the Halls at the Civic. 18th, Manchester, Bridgewater.
You excited for those? Is that going to be weird or strange, or is it just another big rock show?
That'll be fantastic. I'm doing my 2-hour solo shows, which are my dream shows, which I've been doing since 2015. 2 hours with an interval. You see music from 1973 to 2023. So for me, it's brilliant because I can talk, I can show some clips, I can play the piano, I can play the drums. It's the way I like to do my shows. At my age, I want you to see the whole picture.
With a bass solo, though.
5.5 minutes. I have reintroduced into my set my old bass solo from 1979, and it's an endurance test. And I tell you, you could give it to a lot of bass players and they would not be able to do it. It really is something. You got to Google it. Any bass solo from 2023. There's one in Vienna. It's in the song Glycerine Queen, but you can Google it. You'll see it. And I came off stage after the first time when I redid it. And my drummer said to me, that was the most physically demanding and exhilarating musical moment of my life. So, wow. Yeah. And it is hard. And I wasn't going to put it back in because different drummers, you adjust a little bit. Maybe the drummer can't keep up. And so you make it a little bit this or a little bit softer or that. And everybody kept asking me through the years why I didn't do the solo that I did in 1979 anymore. And the last 3 or 4 years, everybody's been asking me this. And my husband said to me, why aren't you doing that solo? And then he said the magic words. He said, oh, you probably can't play like that anymore.
Is that when the middle finger went up again?
How to get Suzi to do something. And then the final straw was my drummer. My drummer in my band said, why aren't we doing that solo? I went, that's it. So I reintroduced it into the show.
Who was the first person you saw do a bass solo live on stage?
That sticks in my memory forever. I was in Seattle, Washington. We were at the Teen Fair. We were one of the headliners, actually. And Can Heat was on the bill. And I saw for the first time a bass solo that impressed me. And it was about 3 or 4 minutes. And I went, yeah, stuck in my memory forever. And then when the Pleasure Seekers turned into Cradle and I was pushed to the back a bit, I became really good on my bass then because I wasn't so much at the front. And that came back to me. I always wanted to do a solo that was orchestrated and exciting and not boring. So this solo is very orchestrated, but it works. You get everything. You get jazz, you get slap, you get funk, you get everything you could think of. And I've got a nice little bass pedal now with a distortion level on it because in the old days, to get that sound, you just turn the amps up. But the amps are too good now. So now you have to have a bass pedal. It's the first time I've ever used one, but I'm out there like a rock god. I'm doing it. I don't want to come off.
Speaking of big shows and milestone events, the band Kiss are calling it a day later this year with their final shows at Madison Square Garden. I believe Kiss opened for you on an early US tour. What was your reaction upon seeing them for the first time? Do you remember?
1974 it was, and it was Blue Oyster Cult, Kiss, and me.
That's amazing.
I know. I kind of thought, well, that's kind of strange to be dressed in. It's not even Halloween. But it was interesting. They were in this. I know Gene Simmons, and I did that rock show with him, and I offered to give him bass lessons.
Oh, wow. Gene gets a bad rap for bass, but I love Gene's playing because he's got that Beatles, Paul McCartney kind of vibe.
He's okay. I was only teasing him. He's a good player. He is a good player. But he said, what? How dare you?
Have you ever seen that YouTube clip where he meets Carol Kay from the Wrecking Crew and she's showing him bass lines?
She's excellent. She's one of the best.
Legend.
In fact, I did her documentary. I did the voiceover and the message came back to me from her. I'm honored that you did the voiceover for that documentary. I said, well, how can I not? She's a brilliant player.
Yeah, because I know you're a big Jameson bass player, and Carol Kay seemed to do a lot of stuff around that similar time as well.
I was weaned on Jameson because I'm from Detroit, so yeah, I was aware of that kind of bass playing from day one.
Suzi, congratulations on the new album with Katie Tunstall. I wish you nothing but success, but it's already on an upward trajectory. Any chance of any live shows together, do you think?
If I'm around and she's doing something, I'm going to go down, or if she's around and I'm, so we should do something together. We will see what happens. So neither of us are against it.
Awesome. So it's been lovely to speak to you again.
And you.
Good luck with the shows later this year. Great to chat to you. You enjoy the rest of the evening.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Always great to speak to the one and only Suzi Quatro on today's show. I want to thank her for being a top guest once more and for all the cool insights and stories. Be sure to have a listen and pick up a copy of the new album with Katie Tunstall called Face to Face, which is out now on Sun Records, with the new single For Truth As My Weapon dropping on October the 13th. All info can be found at suziquatro.com. As mentioned on the past couple of episodes, over at our 80s video shop in Alfreton, Derbyshire, just 10 minutes from junction 28 of the M1, we have a special Halloween horror day coming up on Saturday, the 21st of October, with iconic horror artist Graham Humphreys returning to sell and sign prints of his amazing artwork, as well as his new book, Nightmare on One Sheet. You can pre-order your copy to be signed by Graham on the day from www.80svideoshop.co.uk. And after that event on Monday, the 30th of October, we'll be teaming up once again with the Loft Movie Theatre for another Halloween screening. This time it's going to be The Return of the Living Dead from 1985, and we'll be showing it at the Savoy Cinema in Nottingham. Tickets for this are on sale now, so I hope some of you can make it along. So that is all for today's show, but as always, I'll be back next Friday. So until then, always be kind, please rewind and unwind, and I'll speak to you all real soon.